Hallo und herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge Witch on the Holy Night. Beim letzten Mal hat Sojiro ja das wichtige Puzzleteil offenbart, welches er wusste, wovon er aber nicht wusste, ob er wusste nichts mit der Information anzufangen, deshalb hat er sie auch nicht wirklich weitergegeben gehabt. Und die anderen hätten sowieso wahrscheinlich nicht so gut drauf reagiert. Und Aosaki, also Aoko, ist jetzt wahrscheinlich dabei, irgendwie so einen Plan auszusetzen. Aoko responded in a vulnerable tone. Perhaps she had been taken by surprise. Now she had an objective. She had been lost in her own little world. He expected her to be sarcastic, but this was different. She was genuinely thanking him. He had never known her to be like this and was taken aback.
とにかくトウコの居場所が分かったのはあんたのおかげだから。それがお気に召さなかった？
いや、お礼を言ってもらえるのはいいことだけど、まさかその体でトウコさんのところに行くつもりか。
His tone was closer to scolding than sympathetic. Aoko simply nodded resolutely.
取られたものは取り返すものよ、宗十郎。それもすぐに相手のものになってしまう前にね。
She sounded unshakable. Even so, Sojiro would not back down.
勝ち目がなくてもか。暇はないと言うけど、今はそれ以上に休息が必要だろう。その傷だって今は見れるけど、昨日はひどかったじゃないか。
違うわ。あれは幸運なんかじゃない。そんな玉かっていうのよ、トウコは。
幸運じゃない？
そう。トウコはね、私が生き残れる程度の傷にとどめたのよ。だから私は生きてるんだし、トウコは私が行くのを待ってる。お互いがお互いの舞台の幕を下ろすために。嫌だけど、あんたの言葉を借りるならね。
Irritation tainted Aoko's words. From the sides, she looked terrifyingly serious. She was ready to fight to the death. Toko had given her little choice, so she could understand neither sister.
殺すために生かしたっていうのか、トウコさんは。青崎はそれが分かっているのに行こうとしている。
そうよ。勝負はついたけど、まだ私たちの話は終わっていないもの。確かに全開してから行った方がいいに決まってる。けど、そうしている間にトウコは岬の深部にたどり着く。そうなったら、私の最後の切り札さえ使えなくなる。自分にできることを自分からなくしてしまうのは。
Though the pain in her eyes was not as deep as the pain of death, it spoke of the regret she would feel if she did not do everything possible, while blood still flowed through her veins.
納得いったのなら黙ってて。いい？これは私の戦い。あんたには何の責任も関わりもない。私の人生なの。座して死を待つなんてまっぴらごめんよ。勝つ気があるならいつまでもベッドで寝てるわけにはいかないでしょ。
Sojiro was dumbstruck. Aoko could never let anyone else get involved. Whether that was because she cared or cared less, he could not tell. But what he did understand, though, was if he wanted to stop her, he would have to do so with his bare hands, and he knew better than to try that. Even so, he had to ask one last question. If he did not, he would not be able to live with himself after leaving this room.
わからないな。青崎はなんでそこまでするのか、俺には想像もできない。君を縛っているのは義務と強制。
There was a sadness in his eyes. However, Aoko was unmoved by them.
らしくなく難しいこと聞いてくるのね。いいわ。口にしても仕方のないことだけど答えてあげる。その2つはね、常に私を圧迫してるものだと思う。けど勘違いはしないで。義務も強制も誇りも恐れも周りから与えられたものじゃない。トウコと戦うのをやめたところで祖父は私を叱らないだろうし、アリスも文句は言わないでしょう。ここで逃げてもそれはそれで誰にとってもどうでもいい話になって終わるだけ。本当に意味なんてないのよ、何にだって。でも私はトウコから逃げたりしない。これはただの ここにいるっていう存在証明なの。私は単に意味がないからこそできることは全部やるって決めただけなんだから。
With very passion, Aoko Aosaki had said her piece. Soichiro was left with a pang in his chest. He did not know why, but her words angered him. Then again, at the same time, her self-confidence hit him in wonder. Even though she had said that her life had no meaning, her stubbornness gave meaning to everything.
それがたとえ
Without thinking, he started to ask another question. Maybe he wanted to change her mind. Maybe he just wanted to hear her
たとえ
answer.
他の誰も見ていなかったとしても
It came out as a murmur. Indeed, if no one was watching, no one could know that she had fled. This was the situation Aoko was in. Even so, she shot him down instantly.
あら、見てるわよ。少なくとも私自身がね。
Her expression brightened, possibly because she had been surprised at having to state the obvious. Soichiro was wide-eyed in shock, but Aoko remained nonchalant.
知らないの、宗十郎。生きてく上で一番の観客っていうのはね、他ならぬ自分自身なのよ。
Soichiro did not respond to her somewhat exasperated tone, but simply rose to his feet. He looked defeated, which was not like him at
宗
all.
十郎、
すまない。君が素晴らしいことを言っているのはわかるんだ。けど、俺にはわからない。
He meekly walked towards the door. As he placed his hands on the doorknob, he paused. For a few seconds he fought with himself, desperately trying to think of something to say. No words came forth, and so he opened the door. It swung with a strange creak, and he left the room. After watching go, Aoko turned her gaze to the window. It was nearly evening. A thin veil of darkness was threatening to descend on the town outside. By evening, only Soichiro remained in the chapel. He sat alone and at the end of a pew, slouching helplessly like a guilty believer ready to confess. The chilly air seeped through the walls, turning breath to mist. The frigid air stole the heat from the body without mercy. Soichiro looked around at the chapel's tall ceiling and spacious hall. The room made the air feel colder somehow. Unsure of what to do with himself, he stared into space. His thoughts were entirely unfocused. First and foremost, he could not understand what the buzzing sensation was in his chest. Time passed by, no answer came. To onlookers he must have seemed deep in thought, or in a deep sleep, like he would turn to stone if left be. Either way, he clearly looked down. The problem was his lack of awareness, not that he was aware of it, of course.
おや、夜間の礼拝とは感心です。
Soichiro raised his head and turned to where the voice had come from. Stood before the altar was the man from the last night, dressed in priestly garb. How long had he been standing there? Sound reverberated dryly throughout the chapel hall. Soichiro did not have the strength to stand, let alone leave. He just stared at the approaching shadow.
とも、この教会に精霊なんていませんけどね。ここ、座りますがよろしいですか？
The priest pointed at Soichiro with pew. Without waiting for an answer, he took a seat at the opposite end.
改めて挨拶を。私は文塚英理。この教会の何なんでしょうかね。書類の上では持ち主になるんでしょうか。英理神父と呼んでください。あなたは静木宗十郎君ですか。なるほど。確かに結花には見えない。
Father Airy spoke in a gentle but uninvested tone. He was a thorough egoist. Soichiro knew all too well about people who spoke this way. The individual who cared for him when he first came down from the mountain was one of them. Soichiro glanced across at him apathetically. Father Airy seemed unfazed by the lack of direction to the conversation.
少し君と話がしたいのですが。
Soichiro responded with a nod. Father Ari replied with an artificial
青葉
smile.
が心配のようですね。
別に律香さんにもそう聞かれましたけど、青崎の心配はしていないんです。
Cedric stared straight ahead as he answered, his voice sounding uncharacteristically weak and unsure.
けど今はずっと彼女のことが気にかかっている。それがなんだかわからなくて、さっきから考えてる最中です。
簡単ですよ。君は単に。
With those few words, Cedric snapped out of his funk. He clapped his hand and turned towards the priest.
そっか。俺は単に青崎が羨ましかっただけなんだ。いや、でもそれは困るな。自分の中にそういうところがあるなんて気づきもしなかった。
Father Ari did not respond to his confession like rambling.
それで話っていうのは何ですか？
いえ、話というより質問です。君は今まで山奥に住んでいたと聞きました。そこで一つどうしても気になることがあって。
気になることですか？
はい。おそらく今まで誰もあなたにこの手の質問をしなかったのでしょう。
This time meant
それはあなたが他人にその手の不安を感じさせないからです。実際私もそう思いますし。ですからまあこれも縁ですし、私も肩書きがこれですしね。迷える子羊がいるんですから、それなりの務めを果たさないと後ろめたいというか。
Father Ari looked at Sergio placidly. His pupils were black holes that could suck the soul out of your body.
おかしなことが気になるんですね。その質問というのは。
いえ、ごく自然の疑問ですよ。あなたはなぜ山から降りてきたのか。そこでなら君は幸福だったでしょうに。
Sergio was not sure what he had done, but it sounded as though the priest was accusing him of something. Then again, it was a reasonable question, if a little pointless. Sergio had no answer. Father Ari ignored the silent boy and
山で
continued.
の生活がいかに厳しいものかは私も人並みには知っています。若い頃ちょっとした手違いで遭難したこともありますしね。山での生活はこの上なく簡素です。何しろ生きること以外に時間を割く余裕がない。楽しむために生きるのではなく、生きるためにただ生きる。山での生活に比べれば都市のあり方は楽園以外の何者でもないでしょう。ですが楽園の定義は人それぞれです。
Sergio still did not answer. His expression remained blank. The only sound was the priest's voice echoing around the chapel.
一粒の種の誕生すら喜びになる生活。電気の明かりがどれだけ暖かでも自然のままの厳しい寒さを君は尊んでいたはずです。なのになぜ降りてきたのですか？山にいれば君は幸せだったでしょうに。
Father Ari repeated his question. Sergio's mouth remained firmly shut. Not because he did not want to answer, but because he simply did not know how to. All he knew was, even if he wanted to go back, he could
困
not.
ったものです。そこをはっきりさせないことにはいつまでも救いがない。故郷を捨てた理由もわからないのに旅先の土地を愛することなんてまっとうな人間にはできませんよ。これは忠告ですが、全てを無条件に肯定したところで幸福になれるとは限りません。あなたはもう少し自分の心を許してあげないと。
Sergio could not make sense of what he was being told. Only the father's last words made any impression on him. Being fairer to yourself is easier said than done, of course, and what that entailed, Sergio was uncertain of.
おお、そういえば。
Toko had mentioned something similar before, and it had impressed him. First her, now this priest. How could people know things he hadn't even told them?
すごいですね。神父さんっていうのはみんなそうなんですか？
Okay. Sergio said, curious as to where the weight of his shoulders had gone to. In a way, one of his strong points is the fact that his emotional scars do not show on the surface.
ええ、神父は悩みを暴くのが仕事ですから。ま、大抵は暴くだけで 埋めるのに失敗するんですけどね。
お、悩みを暴くってつまり相談事ですか？
そういうソフトなのも承っています。私が解決できる悩みなどたかが知れているようですけど。
The priest shrugged, looking a little disconcerted. Granted, Soju still did not trust Father Ari at all, but at that moment anyone was a ray of light in his eyes.
じゃあたかが知れた程度の悩みを聞いてもらえますか？
君が青子をなぜ羨むかですね。
It was as though the priest could see into the boy's soul with his serene eyes.
まあそういうことです。自分でもどうしてそう思うのかがわからない。でもあなたならそれを知ってそうだ。
知りませんけど、まあ無責任に答えましょうか。それはおそらくあなたには根拠がないからですよ。自分の色がないと例えた方が正確ですが。
Soju squinted, trying to understand the priest's complicated yet concise answer.
ほら、そこです。君に優れた部分があるとしたら、その順応性です。
Er hat keine Persönlichkeit, heißt das.
山という異界から町に降りて、一人で暮らしていけたこと。ようやく慣れた常識の中で、青子たちという非常識と関わっても暮らしていけたこと。そうであると努めているにしても、あなたの順応性は際立っている。原因は知りませんが、君には初めから自我というものが第一に現れてはいないのです。何事にも対応できるものの、種に交わるほど器用でもない。強いて言うのなら、色の乗っていない空白ですかね。風景に溶け込む自然さは素晴らしい人徳ですが、自我がないということは居場所がないということですから、いいことばかりじゃありません。ユイカにまで見えないというのは予想以上でしたが、姿なき精霊すら捉えるあれが見えなかったのですから、君の無欲ぶりも筋金入りだ。
As if amused by something, Father Ari grinned. However, Soju understood neither the meaning of his smile nor his words.
憶測に過ぎませんが、青子はあなたを見て反感を覚えたと思いますよ。自分のないあなたは自己を押し通してきた彼女にとって認めがたいものだったでしょうから。そして同時にあなたは青子に自分ではどうしても手に入れられないものを見てしまった。言葉にするとくだらない表現になりますが、そういうことです。先ほどは嫉妬と言いましたが、それは訂正しましょう。君は青子に、いや、いいです。言葉にするのはそれこそ野暮だ。
Father Ari smiled gently. It was a fresh-faced grin that belied his age. Whenever it came to Oko, he seemed to forget his role as a priest, but that was irrelevant to Sojiro.
神父さん、それで結局自分は青子のどこら辺に憧れてるんですか？
Sojiro responded to Father Ari's rambling by being direct. Some would say the priest had been direct himself, but this was Sojiro and he needed things spelled out.
今のでもわからないと参りましたね。こういうことは言葉を尽くすほど実感が湧かないものですが、まあ私も神父と呼ばれる身です。少し切り口を変えて代弁してみましょう。あなたは青子の過去を知っていますか？
詳しくは知りません。高校デビューとかおかしな言葉を口にしてましたけど。
全く知らないということですね。いいでしょう。ではしずき君、虐待のない例え話ですが、君は突然自殺しろと言われて従えますか？
自殺ですか？
そう、自殺です。神父である私が口にしていいことではありませんが、まあ私は格好だけなのでいいでしょう。青子はね、 近いことを求められたのです。15歳の時に。彼女がそれまで積み重ねてきた努力も希望も過去も未来も全て捨てること。今日からお前は違う生き物として生きろとね。どうです？それは自己の抹消、未来の死と同じだと思いませんか？
His words fit what Oko had said about her past. Until middle school she led a normal life. Then out of the blues she became the family heiress in place of her sister. Becoming a magician meant casting aside the life she had known. She had to leave behind her ambitions and prospects and live the life of a mage, something she barely knew anything about. Her life up to that point had taught her that everything from then on would bring her misery. Aoko's grandfather was not the forceful type. Your sister has failed. Now it's your turn, he had said. Did Aoko resist? Soichi could not begin to imagine. All he knew is that she could not be happy with the hand she was dealt. Even if the life of a magician was attractive, to believe the possibility that Aoko could give up her lifestyle up to that point was to not know her at all. Aoko Asaki put her all into everything. She had probably achieved a lot in those 15 years. Her achievements and prospects were no doubt enough to make anyone jealous. But did she have to convince to those away and go back to square one? But did she have to the conviction to those Okay, das passt irgendwie nicht, egal. And square one did not come close to the reality of it. The future she had envisioned for so long would have been obliterated.
青子、どうしたんですか？
いやー、これがもう全くの頑固者でして、立ち会った私でさえどうかと思うぐらい簡単にうなずきました。震える指を懸命に握り込んで、やってやろうじゃないと見栄を切ってね。彼女は祖父の期待や青崎の責任感からではなく、逃げることを嫌って魔術師の道を取ったんですよ。拒むことは逃げではないのでしょうが、青子にはそう思えたんでしょう。逃避という行為はこれまでの自分の時間を否定することになると。
Genau das hat Sojiro getan.
今までの自分を嘘にしてしまうのなら、今までの生活に別れを告げることを青子は選んだのです。まあ極端ではありますが、あれは前に進むためなら全てを捨てられる人間なんです。
An affectionate smile crossed Father Avery's face. Rather than signaling his closeness to Aoko, it conveyed the pride of a guardian.
ですが、私も思い違いをしていました。結局はそうなるように、青子は育てられていたのです。彼女の祖父は、瞳子が家を出ることも、青子が跡継ぎを了解することも読んだ上で、あの二人を育ててきた。形だけですが、私も神父としてさすがにそれはどうかと思いましてね。柄にもなく青子を説得したものです。祖父の思い通りになることはありません。なんなら私とメキシコあたりに逃げませんかと。
Das hat jetzt so ungünstige Vibes, wenn man bedenkt, dass sie zu dem Zeitpunkt 15, vielleicht 16 war. Klingt das etwas ungünstig, um es mal so zu formulieren.
しかしまあ、躊躇なく振られました。その時の彼女の返答は今でも一言一句覚えています。
だって私一人がどんなに泣き叫んでも今の状況は変わらないんでしょ。私にしかできないなら正面から受けて立つ。たとえ不本意で突然投げ込まれた川の中でだってできることはあるはずだもの。逃げるなんてのは最後の最後。それまではせいぜい華麗に踊ってやるわ。
Boah. Das hat gerade richtig. The priest recited the words as if recalling lines from a favorite play. It certainly seemed like something she would say. The last thing Aoko said in the room she was recovering and probably meant the same. Of course, when an audience is watching, you want their approval. However, approval must come from within first. Aoko worked to feel proud of herself before worrying about how others viewed her. She at least wanted to do her job with grace. In response to everything she had lost, she would hang in there, even if it meant going it alone. As for why Sojo invited her, well, that was obvious. To Sojo, she lived her life with her head held high. Sie hat Ziele, nicht. Das ist der Unterschied. He was a boy who accepted everything, but had nothing. She was a girl who threw it all away, but never lost a thing. He stood in the meeting room all alone, seeing the ugliness within, and the sublime outside. Looking back, he finally realized what was eating at him.
もういいでしょう。君は青子の容姿に感じ入ったのではなく、青崎青子という生き方に感じ入ったのです。青子は青子で、れっきとした美人ですが。
Ganz so ungünstige Vibes. Erst recht mit dem Punkt, dass er mit ihr nach Mexiko gehen wollte. Das ist ganz, ganz ungünstig. Sojiro nodded. From the day he first met her, that was indeed how he had felt. It just took him till now to realize it. The strength in her eyes and her unwavering will had captured his heart.
なんかすごい汗我慢だ。
本当に小娘のくせにギネス級の頑固さです。
Father Ari spoke from the heart. Sojiro raised his head, gave a small grin, and scratched his cheek. So many hours, wasted brooding like an idiot. A part of him still felt strange, but it didn't bother him to leave the question unsolved for now. Unable to stay still, he stood up. He couldn't care less about the Aozaki family, mage battles or rushing off to her death. Right now, he just wanted to see her face. Stop, the recovery room is off limits. The cold words echoed around the chapel. They reached Sojiro as he was about to head back to Aoko. The sightless sister must have been waiting by the altar. She moved quickly to block his path.
ゆいかさん、今病室には入れないんですか？
Correct, Miss Koanji told me to make sure nobody
アリ
enters.
スが？
Sojiro was suspicious of why Alice would have said that. He could understand being kept out of Aoko was being treated or her condition had worsened, but this seemed different. Besides, Aoko herself said her treatment had finished.
人がいいのですね、シスターユイカは。そんな方便をしなくてもいいんですよ。はっきり言ってあげればいい。今から病室に行っても無駄です。と、青子はとっくに出発しているんですから。
But Father Ari. The priest began to explain everything from the pew he still sat in, about the things he and Sojiro had spoken about, and why he, a stranger, would be so concerned about a person he knew nothing about. It all became clear to Sojiro.
初めからそのつもりだったんですね。
Sojiro's voice was full of anger, but Father Ari did not flinch.
申し訳ありません。青子にあなたの保護を頼まれたもので。彼女の準備が整うまでの時間稼ぎでしたが、私があなたと話をしたかったのは、
The priest's attempt to smooth things over was far from sincere. Sojiro grit his teeth to control his rage. Why hadn't they not stopped Aoko and Alice from heading towards certain death? Because both the nun and the priest were the same ilk as the mages. As such, they understood Aoko's decision, and the priest understood Aoko too. Even if he did have the power to stop her, he would not have. The Aoko Aozaki he knew was not about the hide away in the church and like in liquor rounds.
アリスは？
青子と行きましたよ。あれから30分は過ぎていますね。
Father Ari even went so far as to divulge the time. 30 minutes ago, the same time the priest reared his head. It would not take even half that long to get to the school from here. and then another 10 minutes or less to get to Misaki High School, Old School building from there. Soichiro turned to the entrance of the chapel. However, stop, where did you think you were going? The sound of a voice stopped him in his tracks. An unseen presence locked him in place. Her admonition seemed to carry a spellbinding power, stopping the foolhardy boy in where he stood. You know nothing of major battles. You are too weak to help. You would be a liability. If they fire, that's their prerogative. Let them tear each other apart as they wish. A young innocent bystander like you has no business taking part in such a calamity. She spoke with quiet anger. Her contempt was not directed at Aoko Alice, but Soichiro for being so eager to waste his life. If there was a shred of hope, I wouldn't stop you. But there isn't. There's nothing you can do for them either. She was right. It would be pointless of him to go. At the amusement park, he had been useless in the end. Now, they faced something even worse. He couldn't even imagine how he might be contribute this time. Listen carefully. Aoko Arasaki's grandfather trained her to protect herself. Magecraft aside, she's still tougher than you. Even so, she still doesn't stand a chance against that beast of a familiar. Such a physical strength has only edge meant nothing. If he went now, he would only get in the way. Yuika was correct, and yet...
でも、行かないと。青子には返さなくちゃいけない借りがあります。
He spoke calmly but firmly, though almost moved the sister frowned slightly. She felt bad for him, but her warning was for his own good. If he would not listen to reason, then she would have to make him sleep. She raised a finger of binding at Soichiro.
それを言うなら、返したい借りがあるですよ。それとシスターユイカ、教会内での魔術は控えてくださいね。使うのなら秘跡に留めてもらわないと私の査定に響きます。まったくおとなしそうに見えて律香君より短気なんですから、あなたは。
If I may, Father Ari.
行かせてあげればいいじゃないですか。それともあなたはやはり青子たちに退場してほしいと。
That is to separate from the suicidal devotion. We consider, Mr. Suzuki, even if you go, there's nothing you can do for them. The truth of the statement cut Soichiro deep, but despite everything that was being said, his mind was made up. It always had been, even if he was not certain. He at least would not hesitate. He had always followed his instincts to the end, no matter where they took him.
分かっています。でも、行かないと。ここにいたら本当に何もできない。
His heart burned in his chest. While he listened to the priest talk, he could only think of seeing Aoko. He was not worried, he did not want to help. He just wanted to see her. He would figure out what came next once he got there.
ほら、献身なんて考え自体が間違ってるんです。足を引っ張ると言いますが、どのみち青子たちに勝ち目はないんでしょ。なら彼がマイナスになってもいいじゃないですか。どうせ破産するなら豪快に破産すれば。
Father.
ほら宗十郎君、言って言って。シスター、今のあなたの返事で心が折れましたから。足動くでしょ。
As soon as the priest pointed at Soichiro, he could move again. The pressure was weighing on his shoulder lifted, along with the fear in his heart. Could he help? Would he expose Aoko and Alice to more danger? All such doubts had vanished.
行きます。縁が残っていればまた。
はい。なんであれ、後悔のない一日を。
And with that, Soichiro began to frown as Father Ari watched with a look of satisfaction. The priest knew if he could not persuade Aoko, he could not convince Soichiro either. He watched the impetuous boy run away. As the blind nun listened to his footsteps fade into the distance, Yuka was different from Soichiro and the priest. While she showed no mercy to corruption or self-righteousness, she embraced benevolence to the innocent. Such an ordinary boy with his life ahead of him, and yet he chose to follow heretics into hell. Ich würde sagen, ich beende hier an dem Punkt jetzt mal diese Folge. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao.